I'm not going to lie. 2025 has not been crypto's most shining year. In fact, I think a lot of us would agree there's been kind of this unshakable, nagging feeling that we would get all the way to the end of year 4 of the 4-year cycle, only to find out that the revolution has been canceled. But then on Friday, a new glimmer of hope emerged, and it definitely feels like a move in the right direction. If the only revolutions you're interested in are the ones that the wheels make on your brand new Rari, or if you're finding value in these videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies DRep address and the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. All right, welcome everybody. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Now it is time for us to get back at it. Let's see who's here. D-Night, thank you for joining. Daniil, good to see you. Daniil says, don't cancel the revolution. I don't want to round trip it this time. I could not have said it better myself. Eric Williams, let's go. Hilldog, thanks for being here. Latest Bloomer, welcome. It's just Joe. How many people mining the Night token? How many web browsers do you have set up? Out of all the different browsers I tried, Vivaldi to be the best and Firefox to be the worst. Okay. Off to bed. Can't wait to hear this in the morning. Drinking coffee, getting ready for work. Okay, fair enough. Sounds great. Jolie, let's go. Cardano, let's go. Gaming BTC, thanks for joining. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. It's very nice of you. No Rari. Yeah, certainly none of us are buying Raris yet. That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Yep, and that is what I'm getting at. Hola, Rulo. I don't understand why I need to change my account just to chat here. YouTube's weird. I don't know either. Yeah, you mentioned that on previous streams. I don't know what's going on with your account. Rojo Ohm, hey, thank you for joining. Brian Packard, thanks for joining. Thomas Kirkpatrick, good to see you. Good to see you. So it really has kind of felt this way this year, I think. I think this is pretty much this image is kind of representative of, you know, a lot of what's been going on, I think, in crypto in 2025. We all knew there's this 4-year cycle in crypto that seems to occur. Historically, this has seemed to have occurred ever since the beginnings of crypto, ever since Satoshi launching Bitcoin. There's been this 4-year cycle and things have played out a certain way. And this was going to be the 4th year of the 4-year cycle. So Bindo Cam says also greets back in the trenches or back to the mines. Yeah, I hope not. I hope not. I hope that's not the case. But then this year, we had a lot of weird stuff going on. We had the tariffs, which sort of fundamentally changed everybody's perspective globally on trade with the US. And there's a lot of uncertainty. And we've got a Fed chair and a White House that seem to hate each other. They're certainly, you could argue that the Fed is supposed to be independent and it's not supposed to be cooperating with the White House, but for sure, this White House and this Fed are not cooperating. They're not working together. So things have been kind of sketchy all year long. I think a lot of us, definitely myself, in the back of my mind, have been thinking, is this whole tariff thing, is this going to go okay? Or is this going to alter things? Is this going to disrupt the 4-year cycle? Is this going to screw up? Is this going to screw up crypto and Cardano doing its thing in Q4? And so far, it's definitely looked that way. And one of the biggest problems, I think, you know, people can have various opinions about this, of course, but I think a big part of the consensus view on this is that the 4-year cycle isn't really a crypto cycle. It's really just the liquidity cycle, because the US government has a lot of debt and they've got to refinance that debt. So the Treasury Secretary is kind of like a bond salesman. And at this point, because the debt is so large, a junk bond salesman. Every 4 years, they need to go out and sell more of those bonds, more of those government bonds to refinance the debt. And they can't do that at super high interest rates. So when the interest rates are super high and it's time to sell those bonds, something's got to happen. Something's got to happen. Those interest rates have got to go down. There's got to be a lot of liquidity injected into the system. There's got to be some way to refinance that debt without breaking the whole system. So we know the thesis has been that has to happen. There's no way they can't inject a ton of liquidity into the system because they absolutely have to refinance that debt. Like it seems like every developed nation right now has this crushing debt, and they have demographics that don't support the repayment of the debt. And if demographics are destiny, then you've got a problem. Bad demographics, a lot of debt already, big problem. So you've got to inject this huge amount of liquidity in order to refinance that debt. But it hasn't happened so far. We haven't seen the interest rates going down with a vengeance. We haven't seen giant injections of liquidity. So it's been a little scary. All of 2025 has been a little scary. It's kind of good if you're down with Austrian economics, you see that going on, you're like, good, we shouldn't be doing any of that stuff anyways. But it's like, if they don't do it, what happens? Does everything break? And certainly it would have an effect on the crypto cycle because along with this thinking, it's really a liquidity cycle. This was all until Friday. And then something else happened on Friday, which we're going to get to in just a second. But first, let's check on what everybody really wants to talk about, and that's the scavenger mine. Mission Zambia, thank you for joining. Good to see you. My marriage is counting on the 4-year cycle. Jolie, I think you're speaking for a lot of us there. I think a lot of people are in the same situation with their significant other. It's like you were counting on being the holiday season hero around the family dining table, and we got this instead so far. A little scary. Yeah, Mission Zambia. Thank you for posting me in that. I'm very interested. I haven't been able to run down all the details on this. I don't exactly understand the arguments. So basically the discussion that Mission Zambia tagged me in was one person posting that and I'm apologies if I mischaracterize any of this, but it looked to me after just cursory reading that one person was proposing that maybe we don't need Babel fees because all of that is already possible right now with nested transactions, and that introducing Babel fees might introduce new problems. And here Mission Zambia is pointing out one of those, that it might enable minor extractable value type, exploits. I haven't run down the details on that, so I don't want to comment on that yet, but thank you for tagging me in that. I'm very interested to learn more about what's going on in that debate. So Jay Coco, what happened on Friday? Okay, we're going to look at it. But first, let's check in on the scavenger mine. So on day one, let's go back to day one. We've already looked at this. We've already looked at these numbers last Thursday night. So this was the day one numbers. And just to contrast this with what happened on Friday, I want you to look at a couple of these numbers. 3.75 night per solve and 90 night for completing all 24 challenges. And then at the end of Friday, so 3.75 and 90, the end of Friday, it looked like this. 2.13 night per solution, 51 night per day, down 43%. So Friday, it was pretty obvious, I think, by the end of Friday that things were trending downward in terms of the amount of night you could harvest. And that was pretty predictable. We could already tell. People had already figured out just spin up a million virtual machines running Chrome browsers and let them rip. Get an infinite number of tabs, running an infinite number of miners. All you need is an unused Cardano address. All you need is unused address. You can just spin up as many instances of the miners you want. So people were getting on Thursday, we looked at an example where somebody had 3% of the total hash rate, basically, from spinning up virtual machines. And by the end of Friday, we were seeing that. And I think Saturday was kind of the same story. Just based on the numbers I saw, it looked like Saturday was sort of equally, less fulfilling than day one. However, today on day 4, when day 4 finished, I noticed a jump up. I think a lot of people started looking at the amount of night tokens they were getting compared to the amount they got allocated to them in the glacier drop, or they started thinking about the amount it was costing them to spin up those virtual machines, or they were looking at the amount of electricity they were burning versus the amount of night they were generating, or they just got sick of having their laptops open. So some combination of these things happened in the aggregate, it looks like, and it looks like the hash rate mining these night tokens went down, because it looks like on day 4, as day 4 ended, I think my yield was back towards what we saw on day 1, which is an improvement. So I was kind of hoping this would happen. I was hoping people would get miner fatigue and they would turn off their miners, and it looks like that actually happened. Ad Eve says 2025 not finished yet. I agree, and that's what we're going to talk about. Sodbusters says looks like time to accumulate. I like that, Sodbusters metal detecting. Very, very, very graphic depiction. I like it. Trump made 800 million from crypto. Report came out. Oh, I haven't seen that. I would like to see that. Tag me in it if you can find that on X. Tag me in it. BindoCamp says they don't even need to do the multiple tabs, just a basic program they script up. Dude has a single program running over 400. Another had like 200 and is wanting to add 400. This is on a single PC. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely multiple ways to run a lot of miners. Yeah, people are going to figure out a lot of different ways to do it. No. I mean, only on their own. As far as I know, only on their own. No, everybody, because it's self-custodied, because Ouroboros provides for self-custodied staking. The stake pool operators could only claim night based on their own, as far as I know. No idea. I don't think anybody, Jetski Goose, I don't think anybody really knows. Jose Cano, thank you for joining. So anyways, it looks like we had a little bit of an uptick in sort of the productivity of running miners. So this is encouraging. It was enough. I was sort of, if things kept trending downward like they were on day 2 and day 3, it would have been hard for me to sort of make sure my laptops are open and that I keep hitting, start on those tabs. But and by the way, there are people have already written little open source programs to take care of that for you. A few people have sent me those. Thank you for the people who've sent those to me. I don't quite dare put those out there or promote those because I don't quite know who's sending those. And obviously, like, if this is something you're going to download on your computer, it's there's a certain amount of caution I think is warranted there. So I'm not going to publicize the ones that people sent to me, but thank you to those people who sent those to me. And if those people want to publicize those solutions for that problem themselves, go for it. Okay. T-Wowo says MSNBC just now. Oh, thank you. Okay, I'll look that over. Okay. That's what this episode is all about. Alfredo Casillas, do you still think the bull run will happen? We will see ADA all-time high. I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows, but we're going to talk about one thing that I think gives us a glimmer of hope about that. And we're going to talk about that right now, actually. So here's what happened on Friday. So here's the big thing that happened on Friday. All of a sudden, we started seeing posts like this. Breaking, the Fed printed 30 billion in just 2 days. This is the biggest money printing event of the last 5 years. The crypto market is about to go parabolic. So I don't know about that last sentence, but the part about the Fed printing 30 billion, that is actually rooted in fact. So if we look here at the Fred repo chart, what we see is a pretty flat line going all the way back to November 2020. We see nothing. Tiny blip right here in, what is that, December 2023. they're measuring that. So here's one, December 5, they're measuring that blip as $0.2 billion. Then we see another one right here. Okay, $2.35 billion in the repo market. Then what do we see here? 11 in 2025 in July, we see 11 billion. And then we come to Friday, and you think this is the edge. It's so big, you think it's the edge of the graph. It is not the edge of the graph. That is, let's see if I can get it to show the number. Yeah, there we go. $29.4 billion they injected into the repo market. $29.4 billion. So they did indeed print almost $30 billion on Friday. Cardano says, eventually to claim your night, won't you need to spend some ADA in transaction fees and maybe additional fee? And to do that for 400 miners, will it be worth it? At least it will create some demand. Yeah, I think a lot of people are spinning up all these different addresses, collecting small amounts of ADA. Yeah, hopefully they're thinking about, potential transaction fees, that kind of thing. Tax nightmare, if you ask me. Agreed. The question is, how many of those guys who have like thousands of tabs running miners right now, how many of those guys are actually going to pay those taxes? That's a question. We don't know. Malo Blesav, good morning. Yeah, this was definitely the weekend of scary monsters, including this monster repo purchase. So here's another take on this. Fed pumped 29 billion into the banking system yesterday, the highest ever in 5+ years. It seems like Powell's hawkish talks were just a bluff. Yeah, it's really interesting. So, you have to think that Powell, I mean, this is like literally something Powell brings up every single time he talks, and we talk about it on this channel. They have a dual mandate, right? Keep unemployment down, keep inflation down at 2%, right? They only have two jobs. Their two jobs are keep inflation down, keep unemployment down. So Powell needs to keep unemployment down. So they're cutting rates. But he also knows that cutting rates, goes in the direction that doesn't help him tamp down inflation. It doesn't help him control inflation. It does the opposite thing. So if you're Powell and you're the sly old owl up in the tree that he is, you might just say something super, super hawkish in that meeting, like repeatedly say that the rate cut in December that Fed Market Watch showed at a high 90% was actually not a foregone conclusion. You might say that, knowing that you're about to inject $30 billion into the repo markets. So that's certainly inflationary. Printing $30 billion is inflationary for sure. So you might say a few hawkish things on Friday just to try to offset the inflationary effects of what you're about to do, a few days later. I guess it was Wednesday. Sorry, he said that on Wednesday, knowing that he was going to do this on Friday. And of course, Friday is the right kind of day to do this sort of thing because it doesn't really make it into the news cycle, right? It happens on Friday. It gets covered on the web. Not a lot of people see it. And by Monday, everybody's already forgotten about it. So here's the effect of his hawkish comments during the Q&A. So this number for December was previously in the high 90%. Now we're looking at 69% chance. This is CME FedWatch, 69% chance of that cut in December. Here's Polymarket telling you the same thing. The chances of a 25 basis point decrease, 67%, 3% of a 50 point decrease. So you get a 70% chance, basically the same thing as 70% chance of some kind of a cut, basically the same as CME FedWatch. But this is liquidity. This is straight up liquidity. And this is the first real liquidity we've seen. If you look at that chart, if we go back to the Fred chart, this is the first real liquidity we've seen since going clear back, since 2020. This is the first real liquidity we've seen, and it's gigantic. The biggest injection of liquidity in the repo markets in this time period was 11 billion. This was 30 billion. This was 30 billion. So obviously this is just one of the Fed's tools for injecting liquidity into the system, but it's sort of been like a waiting game, waiting for the prophecy to fulfill itself that the Fed would have to inject liquidity because we've got to refi the debt. And this is sort of the first clue we're seeing that it looks like things haven't changed. We're already seeing this injection of liquidity. Okay. Frazek Etchentov says it's a very confusing time in crypto. Signs are contradictory. I would be surprised to see BTC at certain numbers in 6 months. Yeah, it's a wild time. This is a very, very weird year 4 in the crypto 4-year cycle. So unfortunately, we also had a weird cycle like last time because of COVID, but the incredible amounts of liquidity that were injected into the system to deal with the COVID shutdowns made it weird in a very good way for crypto. This year, for the tariffs and whatever you think is making the global economy so weird right now, that's making it very uncertain for crypto. How nice. I bet the printer is going to take a while to cool off. Yeah, 29 billion. That's some real liquidity. Sup, AOS gang, made for a little bit tonight. Thank you for joining. Otis Frityov, thank you for joining. Brian Armstrong is saying crypto legislation before Thanksgiving. I sure hope so. That'd be nice if we got some really good, if we got a good market structure bill. It doesn't even have to be really good. If we just got a good market structure bill and the Fed keeps figuring out ways to inject liquidity into the system, then we're kind of on the right track. Banks are strapped right now. Yep. Hence this 30 billion. Yeah, it's end of the month. It was end of the month and they needed cash. A 30 billion injection on a 7 trillion annual budget is, I don't know. Somebody else can confirm the numbers there. Wonder how long that will take to filter through. I'm just wondering when we'll get to see more, because as much as everybody's excited about this, if we go back a little bit further, right? If we go back a little bit further, this might take a second to load, so bear with me. If we go back a little bit further and we see what happened prior to, so that graph, the default view shows from sometime, like November 2020 or something like that. It just goes back the last 5 years. But right before that was the big COVID event. Look at how monstrous the liquidity in the repo markets was back in this period from 2019 to 2020. We see these spikes like 59 billion. How much is this one right here? This one's in the 60s, like high 60s billion, 72 billion. And then you got these gigantic ones right here. This is about 100 billion, So, obviously we're not experiencing the same kind of thing we did during COVID, but the Fed has this very powerful toolbox to inject liquidity. You can see, how many spikes here are there that are much larger than the $30 billion spike we saw on Friday? So the Fed has a deep toolbox with very powerful tools that they can drag out if they want to. We're in for a wild ride through this presidential term. That much is guaranteed. Absolutely. So this is at least a step in the right direction. This is a glimmer of hope, and it's like, this might seem small compared to this, but if we get a lot more hits of liquidity like this, and we get the market structure bill and a few other things go right, then we might actually be on the right track. Decentra Studios says, if price no go up the cycle, at least we'll be able to help build Cardano DeFi with all this ADA we have. Either way, I'm here for it. Yeah, I'm kind of, I cast that die a long time ago. So yeah, I'm here for it. I'm here for it too. I think we'd all like to not round trip at this cycle. That's definitely one of my big goals for this cycle. But I'm always trying to say that the market is like a wild, unpredictable beast, and 2025 is definitely proving that to be correct. So, speaking of that, though, building things up in Cardano, we also got this. So, on the 22nd, we got this on the 22nd. Not a lot of people talked about it. Ouroboros Phalanx. Ouroboros Phalanx. So, this is one of those. This is one of those things that IOG is building out that you forget about because it's not one of the like big ticket PR items. It's not like Ouroboros Leos. Like when input endorsers hits the mainnet, that's going to be a really big deal. Everybody in Cardano is going to know about it, and we're going to talk about it a lot because it's going to be very noticeable, very big deal, very big ticket item. Ouroboros Phalanx is one of those things that is being built out in Cardano as part of Cardano's thing where it's sort of constantly improving itself. uh, it's like every day things are being built in Cardano where slowly, gradually, very prudently, we're sort of building out this ecosystem. And in the aggregate, even though you don't notice these things happening in the background, Cardano just gets stronger and stronger and better and better. This is one of those things. So what exactly is this going to do? This is going to help mitigate grinding attacks. So they write, Cardano uses a lottery-like system with the Ouroboros-Praus consensus to pick who adds the next block. It's fair because it's random, like drawing names from a hat, but bad actors with a significant stake, think 20% or more of ADA, could grind the system. They try tons of options super fast to pick the one that lets them win more often. This could lead to delayed transactions, sneaky tricks like double spending or censorship of deals, undermining trust as Cardano feels less safe. So how Phalanx works, Phalanx borrows from ancient tactics. Soldiers in a phalanx formation were hard to break because they work together tightly. Here it adds a slow and steady layer to the randomness process using something called verifiable delay functions, VDFs, fancy math that takes real effort to compute but is easy to check. This extends the process. Instead of quick draws, up above here they said, this malicious actor could try tons of options super fast to pick the one that lets them win more often. And here they're saying they're going to extend the process. Instead of being able to take quick draws, randomness builds over 2 epochs, 10 days, making cheats need massive computing power. Regular stake pools do small manageable tasks like each soldier holding one shield. Cheaters must redo everything for each try, costing billions in hardware or energy. It's like forcing them to climb a mountain instead of a hill. Real world benefits, and it's not just it doesn't just help mitigate the possibility of a grinding attack. It also makes transactions settle faster, 20 to 30% reduction in wait times, because the system trusts the randomness more, reduces attack risks by exponentially increasing the costs. By deterring wasteful attacks, it keeps Cardano green, complements upgrades like Paris, which will be super fast finality for even smoother experiences. So I think this is one of those like those little things that happens under the hood that nobody really notices. But I think it's important that Cardano does these things because if they just did the big ticket, super exciting stuff like Leos, it would be like not doing these things that eventually is our downfall. Like hacks and robbery forest type events happen so much in those other ecosystems, basically because they never gave a damn about this kind of stuff and they just did the big ticket stuff, mainly in the direction of adoption. So I want to thank Jeremy for sending this to me. And anytime anybody sees anything they think is important like this, feel free to tag me. I love it when people do this so I can see what's going on. So at Cardano says, one of the most secure networks is becoming more secure. Great way to describe it. Great way to describe it. So I think that's Friday was not a big news day. And over the weekend was not a huge news weekend, I think, because a lot of jurisdictions had Halloween going on, so there wasn't a ton of news going on. But anything else? Anything else anybody noticed over the weekend, or anything else anybody thinks we need to discuss? I think that is about all the big news. I think this is probably the biggest thing on the macro front, this is definitely the biggest thing that happened last week, and has happened in a long time. We got the cut. We got the October cut exactly like we were expecting. Then we got some bad ad libs on the possibility of a December cut. Then we got this injection of liquidity. Whether on balance, I would have agreed to accept the hawkish tone in the Q&A on Wednesday, knowing we would get this, or whether I would rather not have the hawkish comments and not have this. I don't know. I don't know what's better or worse for risk assets like crypto. But after getting the hawkish comments, I'm kind of glad we got this injection of liquidity, and it kind of explains why he made those comments. Frazek says, I agree on the Fed throwing a smokescreen. Yep, I'm betting the shutdown ends this week and we start getting major news this month. So that would be like if we sort of had like the great news cycle for November, it would be the shutdown ends. So BindoCam is saying the same thing. You think maybe the government gonna open this week? Government, I don't know. I sure hope so. It's definitely both sides are kind of getting enough bad press on this that it seems like something's got to break. Something's got to break, and hopefully that means that the government will open. But if the government opens, we get a good enough market structure bill. We get more liquidity like this, and then we actually do end up getting the cut in early December. That puts us in a much better position than we're in now, I think. Hilldog says, I think we were in a massive wick-off accumulation. The November price skyrocket is an indication of how ready the market is to climb. I want to believe when Trump was inducted. I want to believe that the market wants to climb. I don't know what it's actually going to do. Shutdown over after 11 for election. Very possible. Very possible. They're just waiting. They're just waiting for those election results. There are horrible incentives all around in Washington. I mean, as near as I can tell, Washington is just the product of bad incentives all around. Ooh, yeah. All the air traffic control and TSA people are getting blue flu. Yeah. So this is the air traffic controllers, and if you're not in the U.S., TSA are the security people. Yeah, not getting paid is definitely not good for attendance at work for sure. At Cardano says, I'm going to be in Cardano for now and the future, but boy, could do with a payday. Oh, I think that is all of us. Yep, Jet Ski Goose. I want to believe. I wish I could. I wish I could just buy into the. I wish I was the kind of person who could just like watch the Fibonaccios and believe that the Fibonaccios provide us some level of certainty, or just even not even talking about Fibonaccios, just sort of looking at sentiment and where the market's at, what Cardano's done in the past. I wish I could just look at those things and convince myself we know where the market's going to go, but there's too many variables. The market is like this encapsulation of, a million different variables, and there are so many things interacting with each other. It's just this unpredictable beast. Oh, Jolie says Jolie is furloughed right now. Oh, nice. That's probably, yeah, the not going into work part is probably fun. We covered this. We covered this latest bloomer. I covered this on the channel. You can go back and look at that. It's a way to very simply allow for payments directly in the browser in crypto. So search on X for X402, or just go back a few videos, and we talked about this. But yeah, okay. I think that's, like I said, not a huge news cycle day on Friday and this weekend. But I'm hoping if we can get that government back open, if we can get some more liquidity, if we can get some progress on the market structure bill, I think, this could be a good month in November. I hope so. I hope we get some momentum going. Decentral Studio says Bitcoin has peaked once in November and twice in December. CoinMarketCap chart. So hope is still alive. Yep. December, I've definitely been through many of those days in December where we're at all-time highs in crypto and various ecosystems. So hopefully we get some good momentum in November, good news, good things happening, good legislation, more liquidity. It's possible we could have a good November and a good December, but we'll see. Cheers, Frazik. At Cardano, thanks for coming. All right, I think that's it. I think we've covered all the news. So I think now that we're sort of past October, it's like settled. October wasn't great. So far, 2025 hasn't been great. Now we're going to go into the last two months of Q4 of year 4 of the cycle. And I mean, at this point, all we can do is sort of cross our fingers. I don't think there's anything we can do in Cardano, and there's not really anything we can do in crypto to change whatever is going to happen in the next 2 months. But I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, and hope this $30 billion injection of liquidity isn't a solitary blip. Hopefully we see more liquidity, however it comes our way, and that everything else goes well in November to set us up for, at least something positive in December. If not, I guess at some point after that. But I hope everybody had a great, if you're in one of those places that has Halloween, I hope you had a great Halloween. Hopefully everybody got out and did something fun this weekend. And I will talk to you soon.